Yo, what's up YouTube? It's TheeFrenzy, and this is Dead Ops Arcade, me getting to round 160 on solo, and yes, this is the current world record on this map, and I know a lot of you guys might think this is kind of a weird video for me to make, considering a lot of you guys don't like Dead Ops Arcade, and a lot of you guys probably assumed already that I had the solo record on this map. And the answer is no, I actually didn't have the solo record on this map. I mean, I've had it like 3 or 4 times before this, but I actually haven't had the solo record in like the last like nearly 5 years. But yeah, Benji got to like round 160. He's a PS3 player, and I think that he only shows like one round of footage. And the footage that he shows is him like recording with his asshole or something. I don't even know what the fuck. Like what the fuck is this? Like, okay, but apparently that got approved. Although I'm not trying to say that he's not legit, because I know that he is a legitimate Dead Ops Arcade player. I've played with him before in co-op games and stuff. But how do you guys actually assume that I had the record in solo? Again, that you guys probably wouldn't be wrong in assuming so, considering I have had the record about 3 or 4 times already in solo. And my last solo game that I did play was in like June of 2012, and it ended in just like a really bullshit G-spawn. And a lot of the really good DUA players back in the day, also back in like 2011, 2012, didn't really play solo that much. And I think it's because, well, solo wasn't registered on the leaderboards if you got a high round, so people just simply avoided it. So I guess that it's that part of the video again where, you know, I explain a few things about my game, and I don't want to go too in depth here, by the way, because there's just so much stuff in Dead Ops Arcade. But yeah, I'm not going to go too in depth if you guys don't mind, but I will explain a few things to maybe help you guys give a better understanding of the game that I played. So in Dead Ops Arcade, between rounds 13 through 16, you'll get a Room of Fate room, and there are 4 fates that will upgrade your starting character and stay with you the entire game, and they are Fortune and Fortitude, Firepower, Friendship, and Furious Feat. Now, I'm not going to go over the other 3 fates, but I will talk a little bit about the Furious Feat, which is the fate that I chose. So at the beginning of every round, you'll get a minimum of 3 speed boosts. In addition to this, you run a lot faster than the zombies do, making it one of the easiest fates for solo. And I had a few goals for this game, and considering I've played maybe less than 15 games of Dead Ops Arcade or Dead Ops Arcade 2 in the last 3 years, I didn't really want to make this game more difficult on myself than it should have been. So I just stuck with what I was most confident with so that I could just bang it out in one try. Also, while we're on the topic of fates, speaking of which, in the Room of Fate itself, you usually are able to see all 4 arrows pop up in order when you're playing a solo game. However, since I was playing on the PC version with the 1080p resolution, I don't think I was able to see all the arrows pop up because of that, but luckily I was able to actually determine which fate I wanted regardless of not seeing all 4 arrows. I believe that this is because the console version of Black Ops might be running at only 720p, and even if you set your console to display at 1080p, you don't actually really notice a difference in resolution, do you? I believe that this is because the game is just simply upscaled from 720p to 1080p, unlike on PC where it's true and real 1080p if you set it to that resolution. In addition to this, I would like to say that this is probably the only benefit that you get to playing on PC rather than on console, because I was playing on a high resolution. My game was actually, well, a little easier, to be honest, since I could just see more of the map. And this proved to be really useful on a map like Rooftops, where you can't see upstairs in solo on console, but if you have your resolution set high enough on PC, well then you can. It doesn't mean that it's a game-breaking advantage, but it definitely is a slight advantage. It's almost kind of like playing on 75 FOV on zombies rather than 65 FOV. So another thing that I actually really wanted to go over is the helicopters. A lot of you guys might be wondering, how the fuck is this helicopter moving at normal speed? And well, that's simply because I'm not playing on the Xbox One version of the game. To my knowledge, the helicopters only move slowly on the Xbox One, and I know for a fact that this is not the case with PC, as you see in this video, or on the PS3 version. However, having your helicopter's movement limited It does make the game more annoying to play, but I wouldn't really go as far as to say that it makes it more difficult. It is, however, very annoying to put up with. I do agree with that. I have experienced the helicopter issue myself firsthand, but I did do a four-player game that last year. Actually, no, I played two four-player games last summer, and we were playing on the Xbox One version, and I didn't really notice that much of a difference. Now, I have more stuff that I would like to explain towards the end of the video, but first I would like to go over a few tips for solo. So, in a game like DOA, every little bit adds up, and strengthening your weaknesses can drastically improve your game. So the first one that I would like to mention is that you should pay close attention at all times, but pay even more attention during a 3 or 4 door. The door where the zombies are spawning out of the slowest is where the zombies will stop spawning out of first, and the weakest door is always the first to stop spawning. Another huge one is that, especially in DOA 1, you should never commit to a certain area or direction. This will cause you to get trapped a ton, and you'll take a lot of deaths and use up a lot of equipment by doing this, and get maybe even a couple dog bites here and there. And well, speaking of equipment, guys, when you're playing, make sure that you fucking use it. One of the biggest problems amateur players have is that they never use their equipment whenever they're playing. And I think that the only time that you should ever be at like 2 lives, 9 nukes, and 9 boosts is if, well, you just got out of a boss round or something. And one Fate-specific tip I have for you guys is that I used to see people like do this all the time back in the day, and this especially applies for solo, but I used to see people back in the day try to go for sick like montage clips by squeezing out of little nano gaps and stuff like that. But guys, if you have the Furious Feet, and again, especially in a solo game, don't run as fast as you possibly can at all times. Try to actually run as slow as you possibly can away from the zombies, and only go full speed whenever you absolutely need to. If, like, say you need to squeeze out of a gap, or you need to try to make an opening for yourself so that you can make a gap for yourself to even squeeze out of in the first place. That's the only time that I would actually recommend actually going full speed, or, you know, if like a free life is on the ground and you didn't see it and it's starting to blink away. One specific tip that you can't use on every map, well, I mean, I guess you kind of can, but it works best on the rooftops map, is that on the rooftops, you shouldn't ever shoot at the zombies whenever you're getting forced up the stairs, because this will actually cause them to keep spawning in if they are actually spawning upstairs. This will cause them to keep spawning in so that if you did have an opening at the very end, they would keep coming out of the doorway and actually cut you off so that you actually don't have an opening. But if you didn't actually keep shooting, then you'll be able to get out of there just fine pretty much every time if they are spawning up top. So let's talk about the boss rounds real fast. On round 120, I see a lot of players have a really bad habit of continuing to shoot the monkeys even if like one of them is already dead. And you guys might see this here in a few minutes. That's how I actually G-spawn on round 160, but it was round 160. Who cares? I'm going to G-spawn anyways. But on round 120, if you kill a monkey, you should try to pick up all of the gems or wait for them to blink away before you start shooting at the other monkeys. Because if you do kill 2 monkeys at the same time, you're going to G-spawn automatically. And I mean, hey, on round 120, you G-spawn regardless sometimes, even if you only killed 1 monkey, because they just have so many gems in them. So speaking of monkeys, don't shoot at them whenever they're jetpacking or boosting, guys. If you happen to kill them whenever they're doing these animations, you're going to have this really nasty glitch the next time that you reach the jungle arena, and it's called the invisible monkey glitch. And it's basically where invisible zombies will attack you, and you're just going to end up gaming over from it. So again, the only way to get around it is to don't kill any of the monkeys during the boss round while they're jetpacking or boosting. And lastly, avoid picking up birds and flamethrowers at the same time. The bird flamethrower combo acts very similar to the Shangri-La G-spawn. If you pick up enough of these throughout the entire game, your game will eventually crash. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to TheeFrenzy for actually figuring this out back in August of 2011. Thank you, Frenzy, so much for saving everybody the trouble of freezing up in their zombie games. Or DevOps Arcade games, sorry. So now that that's out of the way, I wanted to finish talking about the details of my game. As you can see, for the last 15 seconds or so, I've been showing my stats leaving certain arenas throughout the game, and on round 96 in particular, which is known as one of the hardest rounds in Dead Ops Arcade, I left with 9 lives, 9 nukes, and 9 boosts. Also, I'll be showing other endings of various other rounds that are considered to be very difficult, and in the meantime, I just wanted to say that it took me about 36 hours to reach round 160, and which, for those of you guys that didn't know, it's the same time that every game takes to reach this round, because there's no such thing as playing fast in DOA, because all of the rounds are time-based, not kill-based. Also, during this game, I did have one slip-up where I dropped below 5 lives, and that was on round 140. I had a very unlucky round with a constant 3-door for a few minutes, really bad pulls, and cows storming through the middle of the map, and just bad drops. Everything that round was just bad and unlucky for me. But other than that, for the vast majority of the game, I was sitting on no less than 7 lives, usually on like 8 or 9 lives. However, on round 149, my game that had been, well, smooth sailing up until this point had started to come crashing down on me. I picked up an RPG bird combo, and then something really bad happened. My sound popped off. And for those of you guys that don't know what that means, it meant that my game was dangerously close to crashing, because if you lose sound while playing Black Ops 1 on the PC, it means that your game's going to crash really, really soon. And this is only exclusive to the PC version of the game, and it happened actually in 2 of my Call of the Dead games that I played a really long time ago. So, seeing how I was on round 149, I still had about 5 hours left until round 160. There was only a very small window, if any window at all, for me to actually reach round 160 in this game. And at first I just started panicking and just began to run around the zombies without shooting them for about 5 minutes, because I was just worried I was going to crash. Although after that 5 minutes, I decided that I was just going to chance it and keep playing normally, except that I would play more cautious than normal. So cautious to the point where I stopped picking up every weapon in the game except for like birds, death machines, vehicles, turrets, teddy bears, and Wonderwaff balls, and the barrels. And I think that sometimes I would pick up the monkeys, but that meant like no ray guns, no China Lakes, no RPGs, no shotguns, like no weapons that could actually really make me any points, because I was just so afraid that my game was going to crash if I had used those weapons. And this actually made my game much more difficult, since I couldn't really make very many points to begin with, so I couldn't earn lives, especially since I wouldn't shoot the weapons that I was trying to avoid if I did somehow manage to pick them up. So if I did pick up a flamethrower or something, I would just run around with it and not even shoot the weapon in the first place, which would actually most of the time cause me to have to use a nuke or just die. So having said that, I did actually have a few moments during this time after round 149 where I would drop as low as 4 lives, but I would eventually get them back up after a short period of time. However, despite my game possibly crashing, I did get to round 160 and did tie the solo world record. And again, for those of you guys that don't know, round 160 is actually unbeatable, because you will always G-spawn, meaning your game is just always going to crash no matter what. So I think I've said nearly everything that I needed to say, and I think this will probably be my last ever solo game on Dead Ops Arcade. But having said that, I've held nearly every record on Dead Ops Arcade at one point in time, and I haven't really had that much motivation to want to play in the last 5 years, because I really feel like I just had soaked up pretty much all of the fun that was left in DOA. But this is one of the things that I knew that I had to do eventually, which was to get around 160 on solo. So I just decided to fire up a game and just finally get it done. Also, one last thing that I did want to say is that I did play this game on PC, mostly for the fact that I did want to get to round 160 on all 3 platforms, which would be PS3, Xbox, and PC. So now that I have that done, I don't think that I'll ever want to play Dead Ops Arcade on PC again, especially considering it looks like your game is 100% going to crash if you were to play it on co-op. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video all the way through, and I'm going to leave you guys with the boss round on round 160 if you guys wanted to watch that. But anyways, dudes, I'm TheeFrenzy, and I'm out. Deuces.